What is up, babes? We don't have a chapter this week. Kinda. I saw a bit of a scan. I looked at like the literal first page. It was a rough scan. It's not an official scan. I kind of like to wait for those. I'm down to get like a little bit of a rough scan if it's like the day before and I can read like the actual scan later. But this is technically a break week. There's spoilers floating around everywhere. I'm usually pretty decent at dodging them. I did look at the very first page, but I won't even mention it. But it looks like a very exciting chapter that we have in front of us at 1071, which sounds insane that we're almost at 1100, but we're like slowly creeping up to 1100. But that's not what today's about. Today's about Aokiji, who is no longer Aokiji, aka Kuzan, and Sakazuki, aka Akainu. Now, they had a fight. They fought for 10 whole days straight on Punk Hazard. Now, I think there was more happening there than what we know at present, and I think that it's going to start to make a whole lot more sense as we get into the future. Now, how much do we really know? We didn't see them fight. All we know is Aokiji won, and Jinbei claimed that the reason that Aokiji, or Kuzan, who I'll just refer to as Kuzan from now on because technically he's not Aokiji anymore, which is a phenomenal name, but his name is actually Kuzan. He said, "I refuse to work under you and I will leave." And it kind of spared his life. Now, what was really interesting about that, Jinbei was telling the Straw Hats this at the end of the climax of Fishman Island, which is a very important arc in terms of just overall arching story and everything moving forward into Endgame. So if you want to go back and read the end of Fishman Island, I recommend it. But basically, he said that he's not going to do that. But the two biggest threats are, well, now Sakazuki, as the fleet admiral, has beefed up their forces. And we see that they've been putting in leaps and bounds of effort that we're seeing now an egghead of how exactly to defend the Marines and to get rid of the warlords. Now, if we look at Kuzan's position, probably one, if not the most mysterious character in all of One Piece, he joined the Blackbeard Pirates. Now, this is something that was said, I think, not in that exact moment, maybe Dressrosa, but it was claimed that Kuzan had joined the Blackbeard Pirates, and in recent chapter page stories, it is confirmed that he captured Pudding with the help of the warp fruit with Igor, or however you say his name. Now, something else is very interesting. So he's joined these pirates, and he's immediately become a turncoat, and I'm supposed to believe that this man is a pirate. I don't believe that. But there's a couple things here with not only the battle, but with Kuzan's story in general that I find very interesting. Are they awakened? Are their devil fruits awakened? Pre-time skip, I'd like to say no. I'd like to say that I think awakening is definitely a post-time skip thing. And even if somebody was maybe awakened pre-time skip, that's not something that's really going to come to fruition until they claim it after the time skip. Because, I mean, like, let's be honest, Whitebeard was probably awakened, right? Like, he probably had his awakened devil fruit. He had that fruit for, like, 50 years, like half a century. So I would think that he would probably have awakened it at some point during a fierce battle. Now, we know Marines are also very heavily educated and trained in the use of hockey as well. So we have to think that a battle between two Logia users, that Akainu has superior hockey. Now, Sengoku claims that Aokiji at the time was the strongest member of the Marines. Now, you can talk about how there was a bit of a mismatch there, which there definitely was, but they were still very evenly matched because the duel went on for fucking 10 days. Now, during this, I think that they both awakened their devil fruits, both of them. And I think in doing that, they both realized that they had such strength, such understanding of hockey, and such understanding of the world that even Sakazuki, when he had Kuzan dead to rights, was like, "You're still an asset. You're still somebody who can help us out." And I think the world was led to be known that Kuzan left, but I think that they maybe made a deal. Now, what's really interesting is a quote that Rayleigh says that I pulled up, and he tells Luffy this. He says, "Listen, Luffy, I've given you training now, but the real advancement in hockey happens during extreme use in battle. The stronger the foes you face with this power, the stronger you'll become with it." Now, what's very interesting there is the admirals are already the peak, a very strong group of the Marines, the strongest group, the top three dogs. But now we have to think that Kuzan and Sakazuki are a step even above that. Borsalino's kind of his own thing. He's kind of tough to place, but I think most of the time people don't really argue that. They're like, okay, yeah, those two are the strongest, and Borsalino's like a half step under, and then the new admirals, Fujitora and Green Bull are both a full step below what Sakazuki is, and probably weaker than Borsalino as well. But what I find really interesting is I think that they struck a deal. I think that when Jinbei is talking, it was not for naught, and Oda's known what he's going to be doing with Kuzan for quite some time. He understood that Blackbeard is a very large problem. Now, when they were, the reason that they fought, the reason that Kuzan was not just immediately the successor of Sengoku, because Sengoku looked down and he was like, Kuzan's our guy. The reason for that is he's not as like vilely violent. We look at him at Marineford, which I just watched in the anime and is just absolutely superb. He's not going around killing people. He's really not. He's getting into action. I think he took his time with Jozu, and like he was just kind of lackadaisical about it, freezing the water when he needed to, and kind of just setting the floor for Sakazuki to just demolish everybody in his path until Shanks stepped in. But he's not a violent man. He's calculated and he's very intelligent. We see him in the past with Nico Robin and Saul, and he pays his respects often. And that was in the past with Saul, and him allowing Robin to live was not because of Robin, because Saul was like, hey man, come on. Like, and he's like, to respect Saul's last wishes, he sacrificed his life to make it so you would live. And I respect that. And even though I don't have to follow that because Saul means nothing to me, I could sneeze and beat 10 of him, I will respect his wishes as the person that I knew he was, and I will let you go free. And then talking to her again in Annie's lobby and saying, like, you know, basically like the storm's coming, like, you're never going to be safe. Like, that's just kind of how it is. And I think that that's very telling, and that's the reason why, even though Sengoku was like, Kuzan, you're the dude, the upper echelon, that's all it tells us. It tells us the upper echelon of the world government wanted Sakazuki. Now, who is the upper echelon? We know Kong. We know that one guy, now this might be kind of out of left field, that one guy that Doflamingo spoke to that one time when Doflamingo was getting kind of sassy with him. He's like, who do you think you're talking to? I think that was after he killed Moria, or attempted to kill Moria at Marineford. But we do know that there are some higher-ups in the Marines. But I mean, what can we think about, or I think it said the government, especially the government, because the five elders are not, the Gorosei is not the Marines. They are the world government. So I think that that's probably who they had slip in their thing. But I like to think that if they did, then that just would have automatically happened. But I'm not entirely sure. I don't know if the Fleet Admiral just gets full call of whatever they're in command of. It seems that way with the back and forth we see of Sakazuki with the Gorosei. It seems like he's kind of in charge of all his dudes to a certain point. But I think that they were kind of pushing for him because of his violence, because they need less people to take out when it comes to the Great Cleansing, and when the Lunafistas really start putting in their work. But that's the thing. Sword is the biggest thing here. It's kind of what can kind of make this argument complete in my mind. But I think that both Sakazuki and Kuzan are a part of Sword. I think Sword is an elite group with Kobe, X-Drake, Sakazuki, Kuzan, probably Garp, maybe Smoker, Tsusuru, a bunch of those type of guys. But they kind of understand, like, hey, the world government is a little corrupt. There is some stuff going on up there that, in terms of knowing, like being in the know, it's tough to know who's in the know about what. Like, Sakazuki should know as much as Sengoku. I don't know if he does. And how much does Sengoku know? Like, how much does he actually know? Like, Lelouch, do they know about that? They know that island's just kaput and they're cool with that? Or is that something that's happening even above with the Gorosei and with Inu-sama? I'm not sure. But what I do know is that Sword is a group that is out for pure justice. And even though Sakazuki is made out to be a demon, is made out to be a bad guy who hates pirates and will kill pirates and defeat pirates at any cost, which he is, I think he understands the benefit of the world is more than that. So when he was looking at Kuzan after 10 whole days of battling, he's got a solid scar, he was putting in work, they both probably awakened their devil fruits, improved their hockey through the roof, like through the absolute roof, and just like decimated each other. And when he's about to hit him with that final swing to end it, to be like, I am that guy, the man actually took a breath, which does not sound like Sakazuki. The Sakazuki I know would have killed him. Did someone intervene? I'm not sure. But what I think the end agreement is hey, we need you to monitor Blackbeard. And the reason for that is because the Gorosei is saying, like, that's a dude we need to watch out for. That's somebody who is, like, going to be at the end game. And I think Kuzan kind of being with him, understanding that the world is kind of coming, not to an end, but to somewhat of, like, a climactic point where now a Yonko's been defeated. 2 of them have been defeated, and the world's kind of opening up in terms of what the government can get away with, what the pirates are going to be able to do. And I think the whole structure of the world is crumbling. And in that, Kuzan was able to find a place with the Blackbeard pirates, as they agreed. I don't know why Blackbeard agreed to that. I don't think he's an idiot. I think he kind of knows. But he kind of snuck his way in there. He's been doing Blackbeard stuff for a while now. I don't think he's trusted, but at the same time, I don't know if he can challenge Blackbeard. I just don't know if he can. I like to think that he could beat him, but I'm not entirely sure. We also get a report, a very interesting report, of the recent chapter, and more like what feels like hard evidence is Pudding is on the ship that Law is attacking right now. Pudding is on that ship. Igor is right there with Blackbeard fighting Law and the Heart Pirates as we speak. So is Kuzan on that ship? I have to think the answer is yes, because like just a couple chapters before he was able to return Pudding. And then they get word at Marine HQ, and I don't know who else is reporting. You could say it's someone else. That's totally fine. I'm not even going to try to make the push that that's Kuzan. But I kind of think so, because if we look at X Drake, and we look at X Drake as a pirate infiltrating another Yonko, and then reporting back to them like, hey, Kaido and Big Mom just fucking teamed up. And then the world government's like, holy shit, like they just teamed up. Like that's a big problem. And then Kuzan's like, dude, Blackbeard's about to just beat up Law and get all the load poneglyphs. Like, that is an absolute problem. And he's able to report that because I think the Gorosei will tell Sakazuki just as much as he needs to know in order for the world government to kind of cleanse as much as they can before the great cleansing comes to be. And I think Sword is all the wiser. I think the world the structure is just crumbling. So all these people are kind of figuring out, okay, like this is what's happening with the pirates, because the pirate world is going absolutely fucking nuts right now. The government is finally starting to like get in there and maybe start to crumble a little bit. If we start to see maybe Borsalino fall, an egghead or something like that. But I think Kuzan and Sakazuki are both endgame pieces for not only the Marines, but for Sword itself. And I think that they knew that at the end of their battle when they made a deal. I'm not going to kill you, but I need you to go be that guy over there. And Kuzan, being as lazy as he wants to be, might have made that decision on his own. Jinbei could be telling the truth. The government could be honest, but it's kind of tough to trust the government. Like Aokiji's just like, I don't want to serve under you, but then decided to go with Blackbeard. It could be his own move for Sword. It could be their move together as Sword, but Sword is involved in Kuzan's move, and I'm very excited to see what he's going to do, what kind of a role he's going to play at the end. But a man like that does not switch sides, does not go turncoat that easily. Just does not. He loves and respects Garp and Sengoku too much to do such a thing. It's just not something that he does. He has been known not to like pirates, and he is very lazy. So he's down to wait and see until his abilities are needed. But that's all I got. We get a chapter next week. I'm going to tell you one word and one word only for the chapter. Kuma. Have a good night. Peace out. Have a great weekend. Happy New Year. Ta-da.